One of the most striking truths about INFJs is that people often don't truly see their value until it's too late. At first, their presence may feel subtle, almost quiet in its impact, as if they are content to linger in the background of life. They rarely demand the spotlight, and their energy can seem calm, steady, and unassuming. But with time, their absence reveals just how deeply they influenced everything and everyone around them. What people fail to recognize early on is that INFJs rarely give themselves away fully at the start. They reveal themselves slowly, almost like chapters in a book that can only be understood if you take the time to read with patience and care. By the time most people realize what they had in an INFJ, the relationship or opportunity has already slipped through their fingers. Another thing people tend to realize too late is how much emotional labor the INFJ has silently carried for them. These are individuals who sense undercurrents in conversations, who notice the pain behind someone's smile or the exhaustion behind a person's insistence that they're fine. INFJs often take it upon themselves to soothe, encourage, or simply be a quiet anchor for others. Because they do this so naturally, people begin to take it for granted. They assume the INFJ will always be there, ready to listen, ready to comfort, ready to understand without judgment. Only when the INFJ finally steps back, often because they feel drained and unappreciated, do people realize the depth of support they've lost. It's in the silence after the INFJ withdraws that the weight of their presence is truly felt. Another realization that comes far too late is just how deeply the INFJ values authenticity. While others may be caught up in appearances, fleeting pleasures, or superficial connections, the INFJ is quietly observing, waiting for something real. They can engage in small talk when necessary, but it doesn't fulfill them. What they long for is depth, the raw, unpolished truths that others often keep hidden. Many don't realize until much later that the INFJ was one of the few people who could see them for who they truly were, without the masks and pretenses. This gift of seeing beneath the surface is rare, and when it's gone, people often feel the ache of being unseen in a world that doesn't look closely enough. If you want to truly understand yourself and unlock your full potential as an INFJ, check out the INFJ Playbook today. The link is in the description of this video. INFJs are also masters of intuition, but this is often misunderstood. People may dismiss their insights as coincidences or overthinking, not realizing until much later that the INFJ was right far more often than not. Their ability to read patterns, sense outcomes, and understand human motives is uncanny. What others miss is that INFJs are rarely impulsive with their intuition. They sit with it, test it, and weigh it against their inner moral compass. By the time someone realizes that an INFJ had quietly warned them, hinted at the truth, or tried to steer them in a healthier direction, it's usually after the consequences have already played out. And then, in hindsight, the INFJ's perceptiveness seems almost prophetic. There's also the matter of loyalty, something that is often overlooked in the moment. INFJs are selective about who they let into their inner world, and once someone earns that trust, the INFJ becomes fiercely loyal. They'll defend, protect, and stand by those they love in ways that aren't always visible to outsiders. Yet this loyalty is not infinite. When betrayed, dismissed, or continually taken for granted, the INFJ will quietly begin to pull away. Unlike other personalities, they rarely end things with drama or confrontation. They simply detach, leaving behind a silence that feels impossible to fill. It's only after they're gone that people realize how unwavering their loyalty once was, and how rare it is to find someone who gives so selflessly without asking for much in return. People also tend to realize too late just how much thought INFJs put into even the smallest details of their interactions. That encouraging message that arrived just when you needed it, the small act of kindness that seemed perfectly timed, the way they remembered something you mentioned weeks ago, all of these moments are carefully woven into the way an INFJ loves and cares. They may not always broadcast their affection in loud or obvious ways, but their quiet attentiveness speaks volumes. Sadly, many don't fully appreciate these thoughtful gestures until they're no longer there. What once felt subtle and easy to overlook suddenly stands out as extraordinary once it's missing. Another truth people often come to realize late is that INFJs are not nearly as invulnerable as they appear. Because they're good at being the strong, steady presence, others often assume they don't need support themselves. They can seem endlessly patient, endlessly understanding, endlessly resilient. But beneath that calm exterior is a heart that feels deeply, sometimes to the point of exhaustion. When people fail to notice the INFJ's quiet struggles, or worse, assume they don't have any at all, they inadvertently contribute to the INFJ's sense of isolation. Only later do they realize that this deeply compassionate soul also needed compassion in return, and by the time they recognize it, the INFJ has often already retreated into solitude to heal on their own. And perhaps the most powerful realization of all is just how rare INFJs are. Their combination of empathy, intuition, vision, and depth doesn't come around often. They are dreamers and healers, strategists and nurturers, visionaries and confidants. People may spend years cycling through relationships and friendships, only to look back and realize that the INFJ they once had was unlike anyone else. In a world that often prioritizes surface over substance, the depth and sincerity of an INFJ is something that leaves an imprint long after they've moved on. By then, it's often too late to go back, to say the words that should have been said, or to appreciate what was offered so freely. Another thing people often realize far too late about INFJs is how much silent endurance they possess. On the surface, an INFJ may appear calm, composed, even serene, but this exterior often hides the storms they've endured alone. They rarely broadcast their struggles, choosing instead to shield others from their pain. They'll smile through moments of exhaustion, continue to offer encouragement even when they themselves feel empty, and show up for others when they're quietly craving someone to show up for them. Only after they've pulled away do people look back and recognize the quiet strength that held so many fragile pieces together, not just for themselves but often for everyone else as well. People also come to realize, when it's too late, that INFJs were never motivated by surface-level pursuits. While many chase after attention, validation, or short-term gain, the INFJ is always looking at the bigger picture. They think years ahead, plan for futures that others haven't even considered, and invest their time and energy into things that carry lasting meaning. Their long-term perspective can be easily overlooked because it doesn't always align with immediate gratification. But when their vision plays out, when the consequences of choices become clear, it dawns on others that the INFJ was not distracted by shallow desires, but was quietly building towards something enduring and profound. Another truth people realize too late is how INFJs embody both vulnerability and strength in equal measure. At first glance, their kindness and compassion can make them seem fragile, as though they could be easily broken by the harshness of the world. Yet, beneath that gentleness lies an inner resilience that surprises people once they witness it. They may fall, they may hurt, but they always rise again, carrying with them a deeper wisdom each time. People often don't grasp the duality of this, how someone can feel so deeply yet remain so unyielding, until they've seen the INFJ walk through fire and emerge with quiet dignity. By then, it often becomes clear that the very qualities others may have mistaken for weakness were, in truth, extraordinary strengths. People also realize too late that INFJs love with a rare kind of purity. When they open their hearts to someone, it isn't half-hearted or casual. It's all-encompassing, intentional, and deeply sincere. They invest themselves in ways that make their love feel steady and unwavering, not something that flickers depending on convenience. But because they love quietly, without theatrics or constant demands, it can be easy to underestimate the depth of it. People often fail to notice the rare gift they're receiving until the INFJ's love is withdrawn. And when it's gone, they find themselves searching for that same kind of soul-deep connection elsewhere, only to discover how difficult it is to find again. People also figure out too late that INFJs have a quiet power to transform the people around them. Their words linger in memory, their insights spark self-reflection, and their presence often inspires growth. Yet in the moment, others may overlook this influence, dismissing the INFJ's gentle nudges towards self-awareness as nothing more than casual conversation. Later, when they've grown into a better version of themselves, they realized that it was the INFJ's subtle influence that helped them uncover hidden strengths or confront long-ignored truths. By then, the INFJ may already be gone, leaving behind only the echoes of the growth they sparked. Something else people often come to recognize only after the INFJ is gone is how much balance they brought into their lives. An INFJ has this subtle way of grounding chaos without ever making it feel forced. Their presence alone can bring a calming energy that steadies a room, a group of friends, or even a family dynamic. They know how to absorb tension, redirect negativity, and bring a sense of perspective that prevents small issues from escalating into larger conflicts. But because they do this so seamlessly, it rarely draws attention in the moment. Only when the equilibrium starts to collapse after their absence do others realize it was the INFJ's quiet influence that kept things from unraveling. Another thing is the way INFJs make people feel seen without needing grand gestures. They notice the overlooked, the subtle changes, the quiet victories, and the silent struggles that others miss. When you're with an INFJ, there's a sense of being recognized on a deeper level than most people ever bother to reach. It's an unspoken validation that says, "I see who you are beneath the surface." At the time, many don't realize how rare that feeling is, because it feels so natural with an INFJ. It's only when they're gone that people recognize how many of their other relationships feel shallow in comparison. People also realize too late how patient INFJs truly are. They're willing to sit with someone in their growth, wait for them to figure out their path, and offer encouragement during the slowest of journeys. They rarely rush or pressure others into becoming something they're not ready to be. But that patience isn't limitless. Once the INFJ decides that someone is unwilling to grow, or that their kindness is being exploited, they will withdraw. And when they do, the absence of their steady patience feels like a void that is difficult to replace. People often realize too late that what they dismissed as quiet support was actually extraordinary devotion. Another truth that becomes painfully clear in hindsight is that INFJs often act as mirrors. Without even trying, they reflect back to people who they are, sometimes their best qualities, and sometimes the parts they try to avoid facing. An INFJ's ability to hold up this mirror can be uncomfortable, even confronting, which is why some people may resist it while the INFJ is present. But later, when distance brings clarity, they realize how invaluable it was to have someone who showed them truths they might never have faced otherwise. That kind of mirror isn't easy to find again, and the recognition usually comes with a bittersweet mix of gratitude and regret. People also realize too late that INFJs often knew far more about them than they ever shared. Because INFJs are careful with their insights, they rarely overwhelm people with everything they notice or sense. They may keep quiet about their observations, choosing instead to offer only what the other person is ready to handle. It's only afterward that people look back and understand that the INFJ always had a deeper awareness of their struggles, hopes, and hidden motives than they ever admitted. The realization that someone once saw them so fully and chose to handle that knowledge with such gentleness can be both humbling and haunting when the INFJ is no longer there. And perhaps one of the most surprising realizations is how much INFJs silently sacrificed. They give up their time, their energy, and sometimes even their own dreams to support others. Yet they don't announce these sacrifices, nor do they demand recognition for them. They simply give, believing in the value of love, compassion, and loyalty. The tragedy is that these sacrifices are often invisible until much later, when people look back and recognize the countless moments the INFJ put someone else's needs before their own. By then, it's too late to return that level of devotion, and the recognition of their selflessness becomes a lesson learned through loss. People also often realize too late how much inspiration INFJs provide. They may not always be the ones delivering rousing speeches or commanding attention in a group, but their ideas, their vision, and their quiet encouragement often plant seeds that flourish in others. Many people pursue dreams, try new things, or take bold steps in life partly because an INFJ once whispered, "I believe you can." The ripple effect of those words may take years to fully unfold. Only with distance do people connect the dots and see how much their confidence and courage grew in the light of an INFJ's belief in them. People also come to understand too late that INFJs are not simply good listeners. They are transformative listeners. They don't just hear words. They hear intent, tone, silence, and the spaces between thoughts. Talking to an INFJ can feel like finally being understood in a way that doesn't require endless explanations. At the time, it feels natural, as though that level of understanding is commonplace. But once the INFJ steps away, conversations with others suddenly feel more shallow, more surface level, and less nourishing. That stark contrast makes people realize that being truly heard is not something easily found again. INFJs carry a certain quiet bravery. They may not be loud about their strength, but they often make difficult choices that others shy away from. They will walk away from toxic situations, even when it breaks their heart. They will hold on to their values, even if it costs them popularity or comfort. They will stand firm in their convictions when others bend. People may not notice this strength at the time because it isn't flamboyant, but in hindsight, it becomes clear that the INFJ had a kind of courage that was steady and uncompromising, qualities that are rare and deeply admirable. Another truth that becomes clear only later is how much wisdom INFJs carry in the subtleties of their words. They may drop insights in casual conversation, almost as though they're not even trying to teach or guide, but those insights tend to resurface in people's minds long after. At first, they may be overlooked, but with time, people often recall those quiet words and realize how profound they were. It's in the moments of struggle or reflection, when those words come back like a compass, that people truly recognize the depth of the INFJ's wisdom, and by then, the chance to thank them for it may have already passed. Another realization that comes too late is how much stability an INFJ quietly provides in times of uncertainty. They often serve as a steady point of reference when everything else feels unpredictable. Their ability to remain calm, to think several steps ahead, and to offer perspective makes them the kind of person others lean on without even recognizing it. Only when they step away do people notice how much less grounded they feel, how much harder it is to navigate chaos without that quiet voice reminding them that things will eventually make sense. If you want to truly understand yourself and unlock your full potential as an INFJ, check out the INFJ Playbook today. The link is in the description of this video.